All right, I'm here with Jennifer Tucker from EXP in Long Island. Hey, Jennifer.
Hey Jen, how are you? It's always great to meet with another Jen. I mean, I'm sure we have so much in common besides the 8 letters in our name.
I know, right? Do you go by, are you a Jen with two N's or one?
One, I think I used to be a two, a two N kind of girl, but no, just Jen. Let's keep it to the point and get right to it. But yeah.
Perfect, cool. So, we're going to talk today about your tips on recognizing personality styles quickly so we can figure out, like, okay, if we can recognize this, what can we do with it? But first, let's talk about like your tips on how to do this fast.
How to like assess people really
Yes.
fast into who they are.
Yeah.
It's all about the body language and their tone or speech pattern.
Okay.
Those are the quick tips that I would see. I mean, you see, like I'm sitting right now, my legs are crossed. It's just more of a C or conservative type of personality. We don't want to let people in. Usually high Ds or dominant personalities are also like that too because they're analyzing. When someone sits very open, it's more of an I or S.
Like they
Uh,
want to give you a hug.
they want to give you a hug or give you a high five. The other thing is another tip that you can recognize quickly is besides their kind of body language, like I said, would be their speech pattern. So again, I'm a high D and C. I speak very fast, very rapidly, and with my hands. I don't know if that's a New York Italian thing, but
Yeah.
it could be. But that's where we learn things from as well, right? It's either it's nature, right? You're born with it, or it comes from your environment.
Right.
So that's how your personality is made up.
Well, let's like back up and talk about, you're talking about the DISC assessment.
Sure.
Let's, so why, I guess I want to back up even further. Like why are we doing this video? Like, why do we think that knowing a potential client's personality profile, like what will it do for us? Why do we care?
Yeah, that's a good question too, and great place to start. We care because, we're able to recognize the person who's sitting across the table from us, right? And we all know that people want to do business with those who look, feel, and sounds like them. So if
Right.
you're able to assess the person across from you quickly, then you're able to adapt yourself. Maybe you change your speech pattern slowly because you need to meet people in order to build a relationship. You need to meet that person where they are at, not where
Right.
you're at, where the
Right.
person or potential client is sitting.
Right. Exactly. And so then you can like use it, and not to like, not in a manipulative way,
Oh
but
no.
to like build that rapport a lot quicker. We actually talked about building rapport in our Real Estate Fight Club podcast. And it was like, how long are your listing presentations? And some people are there for hours because they're building rapport. But if you have these tips and tricks, you're like instantly in rapport.
Yeah, exactly. To me, rapport is kind of embodies the whole prospecting time that you have with the potential client.
Mhm.
You're always building rapport because you can always kind of go back to it. Like,
Yeah.
I know in the past I've definitely referenced maybe a high school that I knew someone went to, or yes, my daughter plays softball too,
Right.
things like that.
So, okay, so you're in your example, if you're like, let's say you're just on the phone with them and you said you can tell by their like how they talk. If
Sure.
oh, we didn't talk about what is the DISC? Like what does that stand for?
It's a disc assessment, like you said, it's personality. The D is a dominant personality, someone who likes to be a leader, take charge. Usually, your CEOs, what do you call it, pilots,
Yeah.
are usually D
Okay.
personalities, right? Next would be an I personality, an influencer.
These are
You
your
could really,
realtors.
yeah. I mean, realtors encompass a lot of personalities too.
Yeah, right.
Um, but I personalities you can recognize quickly as influencers are as usually very trendy in their clothing style.
Mhm.
Those type of women usually like to carry a lot of handbags or have handbags within handbags,
Nice.
big jewelry, which is constantly changing
Yeah.
typically. But yeah, that would be an I. Usually they speak fast and they are loud.
Okay.
in their speech, I would say. And S is more of a supporter, definitely someone who sits back and observes a little bit more, and they're really very caring. You'll see supporters, and we'll recognize supporters as teachers,
Mm.
those probably in the social field.
Yeah.
Social service fields who really care about people and want to be able to lift them up. And C are more of is more of what was I going to say? They're more conscious, and they are looking because they're very calculating.
These like engineer type.
Exactly. Accountants as well. Anything that has to do with numbers, or if they want to know what's the price, or, your C personalities, you can be asking, what's the price, or what's your bottom line? You're always looking for numbers, or they're going to be asking for numbers. They're also very engaged in safety. So I know when I was working with C type personalities, I would definitely point out to my buyers, like the roof is new, the windows are new, things like that, because
No,
those are
that's really
important to
good.
them.
Those are good examples. Do you have, okay, so besides body language and how they talk, it also sounds like a tip could be, what are they saying, or what are the questions
Right.
they're asking? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like we said, with those C personality types, they're going to be very concerned about safety. How's the neighborhood? How's the schools?
Mhm.
Very similar to S personalities too. Okay, because your I and S personalities, they are very feeling oriented,
Okay.
and your D's and C's are very task oriented people.
Gotcha. This is like, there's so much information here. And I know, like, in part of your book, and I want to make sure we have time to talk about that. You dive into this pretty deep,
It
right?
really, yeah, I dove into it because it really was, I would say, the trampoline that really lifted me up and changed my business. I remember, and I talk about it in the book, Become a Rockstar Real Estate
Uh-huh.
Agent, about how I'm sitting in front of a potential seller, right?
Okay.
Take the listing, and I thought everything went great. But it didn't go well because I didn't match them to where I was at, and I couldn't figure out why. And I suddenly dropped myself into disc personality profiling, and I'm like, I had
Um,
that moment like
so what were they?
months later, that that was why I was more focused on my agenda and
Got it.
not the client's agenda.
So what were they?
Oh, they were SISs. She was an SC and he was an IS. Um,
You're a DC.
I'm a DC, and I'm like, giving the numbers and getting to the point and telling him this, just telling him exactly everything. And it just didn't happen. There was no connection there
Right.
whatsoever.
So now, like, if we took that example and like knowing what you know now, how do those appointments go now? So you're a DC, but let's just,
Mhm.
they're an IS. So
Yeah,
what?
being only 10% of the population that's out there of my personality,
Here you
I
have to
really I
adapt.
had to adapt and change.
Yeah.
I've learned to quickly camouflage myself and
Mhm.
become more of an actor to meet the person. And again, it's not a manipulative tactic.
Mhm.
It's just kind of helping that person feel more comfortable with
Right.
who they're working with.
Right. No, that makes sense. So, like, can we do a specific example? Like, okay, you're at the listing presentation, you were telling them like facts and figures, you were getting straight to the point. You were like, this is what we're going to do, like you said like task oriented.
Right.
So, if we encounter somebody now like that's an IS, like how would we have changed that conversation?
Yeah, I would have talked about feelings a little bit more. I would have asked questions like, how do you feel about that?
Oh God, right?
Instead of, it's just a small shift, right? Instead of
Yeah.
saying, what do you think about that? Like when I respond easier instead to when someone says, what do you think about that? But when
Uh-huh.
someone says, what do you feel about that? That's like, well, I don't really have too many feelings. I think too much. I'm very
Right.
cerebral. But yeah, but that's the simple shift. Instead of saying,
Hmm,
if
that's
they're more on that people profiling, more
Yeah.
I's and S's. We want to ask how they're feeling as opposed to what they think.
And that's a great tip, right? Because then they automatically, I would assume, like they would feel connected to you. Cause like, yeah, I'm an ID, but I'm more on like if you ask me I'd prefer you to ask me what I think, just like you, right?
Right.
If you ask me what I feel, I'm like, who cares how I feel? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, what, you know what I mean?
Right. No, yeah, exactly. I'm like, no, we're not here to feel anything. We're here to get your
Right.
house sold,
I just
right?
want to be a friend, right? Like, come on. Oh my gosh, that's perfect. And I know, like, tell us a little bit about the book because I know you're going to have like a lot more tips about this, but what are the other topics that you cover?
Yeah, I really cover kind of like 5 things that agents need to do in order for them to kind of get their real estate business career or and business kind of on track. And one of the main things that I talk about is block planning and
Okay.
scheduling out your day.
Yes.
My day, especially I'm sure for an I personality, sometimes that can be difficult. But yeah, planning was to me was super important, and it was almost like high school, right? This is when English is, this is when math is, and it's the same thing for real estate, right? I'm going to prospect from this time to this time. I'm going to be
I even used
taking
to
out
have like a
buyers.
little timer too, because it helped. Like when you're first learning to get to the rhythm, it does help. Like a small note.
Exactly.
Yeah, I never thought of it. It was like high school. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, right now, my day, I don't even answer calls between the hours of 3 and 7:30, just
Uh-huh.
because that's my time to be home, cook, and kind of get dinner ready for everyone to do homework. So I
Nice.
won't answer the phone, and I explain that to my clients now, that I won't answer my phone, but I'll get back to you at about eight
Well, and I'm
o'clock.
sure you're being like, this is kind of off topic, but I'm sure you're also being proactive about communicating with them, right? Like you know that you don't talk to people between 3 and 7, and if you need to talk to them, I'm sure you talk to them before 3, or you text them like, "Hey, I'll call you at 8 or 7:30 or whatever it is." You're not like
Exactly.
expecting them to remember your schedule.
Nope, nope, not at all, not at all. Another tip that I kind of give in the book is we need to change from being a paycheck employee in real estate
Mhm.
to an owner of your own business.
Oh, beautiful, nice.
Right. So, when
Like
stop looking,
mindset.
yeah, stop looking at commission checks as, that's your paycheck, right? When we shift to, and I would even suggest is opening up an LLC or S or
Yeah.
C corp, whatever you think is a good fit. Um, Opening up that so to shift one's mind into, okay, this is my business, right?
Mhm.
And I pay myself first.
Yep.
50% of each commission,
Mhm.
30% is saved for taxes. I keep 10% to reinvest in the company and the other 10% as profit,
Nice.
right? So that was just a model that worked for me, and it helped. So this way, I felt like I was still receiving a paycheck, but I was actually my business was writing the check out to myself.
Exactly. That's good. What is the book called?
Or become a rock star real estate agent: 7 steps to make 100K a year.
I love it. And where can we get it?
Yeah, I'd love to give your listeners a free download of the book at rockstaragenttraining.com.
Awesome. Easy enough. And Jen, if people have questions for you specifically, or maybe they have a referral, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Oh, I'm a super texter. I spend my time, and I don't mind giving my number out. It's 516-361-2568.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
All right, Jen, you too.